maneco64 here. Billy and I are doing a live stream this Sunday. It's August 12th, 2018. Doing a Q&A as well. So I see there's no one around at the moment. I didn't warn people about it. I wanted to do a little earlier today. Usually I do it later in the day. So it's almost 3 p.m. London, which is 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. About 7 a.m. in the West Coast in the U.S. See someone coming here on stream. A couple of people now. Billy is here today, as you can see. I played a little bit of golf earlier this morning. It's much cooler here in the UK now, which is nice, but we do have a little bit of rain, which isn't too bad. So I've got a lot of books here. I will, after the live stream is finished. Hi, James. Nice to see you. After the live stream is finished, I will publish the video. It will go onto my YouTube channel, and in the description, I'll try to put as many links as possible. I've picked up quite a few books. Some books that I've already talked about. Some that I haven't. Some very controversial. And you can also ask me as well. If I have any kinds of books that might interest you on a subject, and I can look around on my my shelf. So we've got 8 people right now, so wait a little longer. Labbook84, hey Labbook, how are you doing? So I'll just wait a little bit longer. So what's going on in the world? Well, yeah, I think the situation in Turkey is quite interesting. We're hearing now that Turkey could be moving from the sphere of influence of NATO and the US towards Russia, China, and the BRICS nations. And I think people underestimate how important Turkey is. I think the whole crisis in the Middle East that we've had recently, especially in Syria, is to do with Turkey. It's with the EU, the globalists, trying to build a pipeline from the Gulf states for natural gas through Turkey and Syria. And it looks like they've lost now. The EU is lost, and they've lost Turkey, and they've lost Syria, and the Russians and the Chinese, even the Chinese now I've read, are in Syria. And I don't think Trump really cares. I think he wants to screw the EU and the globalists. So it looks like he's being tough on Turkey, but he might be doing Turkey a favor. So we're getting more people here now. Landscaper, hi Maneco, what's your opinion on the crypto markets? Yeah, the crypto markets, good question. There's been a bit of blood in the streets the last week, I would say. I'm watching some of the cryptos I have. I'm not getting rid of them. I still believe in the fundamental, in the story, in the long term. It's just a little painful right now. I bought a little more a few days ago. I'm not going to buy more at the moment. I don't have too much extra fiat, and I do not want to dispose of my precious metals to buy crypto at the moment. That doesn't mean I don't think it could move very quickly higher, but it's painful. I think you just need to sit through it. If you've done your homework and you understand the technology, this is normal, this kind of price action. So I'm not concerned. You got to stick to do your homework, pick a project or coin that you like and stick to it if you believe in it. That's what I believe. Danny Djokovic, Maneco, did you hear about China invading Vietnam? No, I haven't heard that. That would be big news. I haven't heard. El Tomo, hello everybody. Thank you, Mario, for the recommendation reading the book Gold Wars. Yeah, that's one of my favorites about the gold market. El Tomo is a good one. Erhan Sahin, Erdogan says he will stay firm. I think he should. He's got nothing to lose. and I think Turkey has a lot of gold. I've read as well that the Chinese are prepared to help Turkey. And the other thing as well, I read an interesting article in Zero Hedge about Turkey by a guy called Tom Luongo. He wrote a couple of days ago, and he said what this will do is that it will separate the people who are loyal to Turkey domestically, the businesses, because the people who borrowed from the European countries or in dollars, Erdogan is going to let them go. But the companies that have stuck to borrowing domestically, they're going to be okay. So it's something that Putin did as well 4 years ago when there was a crisis in Russia. He bailed out the companies that were domestically based, domestically financed. So that's a way of weaning out the Turkish economy out of the dollar system. And it's not a bad thing. And I think Turkey, yeah, actually, I think it's doing Turkey a favor. So Tom Manley, precious metals are a fair price with very little downside. I agree, Tom. There's also an article on a few articles I saw this weekend of how the commercials haven't been as almost flat precious metals for many years. And the last time they are at positions where they're now was there were like huge bottoms in precious metals. So, and if you saw my video yesterday, I did a lot of technical analysis. I looked at gold in pounds, in euros, even in Turkish lira, but in pounds and euros especially, we made some pretty new lows last week. But at the same time, the last few days of the week, it rebounded and closed higher than the week before. So I think we could have seen a bottom in those currencies. And I think we need to look at gold as a currency. So whatever gold's doing against the other major fiat currencies aside from the dollar is a good indicator. So yeah, let's see though. But as I said before, hold gold, of course, as insurance. The price, it would be nice if it was a lot higher, but you know, it's protection in the end of the day. Hi, Charles. Nice to see you here. Erdogan is trying to rise up the Ottoman Empire once again. Maybe. A lot of people argue that the reason for World War I was to get rid of the Ottoman Empire so that Europe could control the Middle East, because the Middle East was under Ottoman rule, right? So who knows? David Buckner, good day, Mario from Detroit. Oh, nice to see you, David. I've got a family in Detroit, near Detroit. One of my cousins from Brazil, she married in the 70s. She married a guy from Detroit, so I've got cousins there. I've been there a couple of times, but a long time ago. It's a nice place, Detroit. Ankle Spanner. Hey, Mario. Hi, Ankle Spanner. Charles Patterson. I had to get some MFG at IDEX at market because every time I put my limit order bid from the queue, the market would insert 3 stacks of bids in front of me. Well, that looks like some kind of manipulation. That's the thing about electronic markets. I started my career in the futures market in the 90s. Back then, we didn't have, the only electronic trading we had was after the floor shut, like in the afternoon, and we traded for an hour on something called APT. That was on the Life Exchange, and that was really interesting. But that was the precursor for the first like 5-6 years in the futures market. Most of the business you would call the floor, and they put the order into the pit. It was all done human interaction. David Wiseman, do you think Iran threats to sell oil in yuan to China is ramping up Trump's aggressive behavior? I'm not sure. I don't think Trump cares. I think Trump doesn't mind if the petrodollar goes. From what I'm understanding, because the petrodollar is the currency of the globalists, and I'm not too convinced Trump is pro-globalist. I think Trump is pushing these countries to find an alternative, because what he's doing with the trade wars, uh, Trump, all the tariffs, is he's wrecking the petrodollar system. And why is he wrecking it? Well, because the petrodollar system, the globalists ran America to the ground with all the huge deficits, because they didn't care, because the petrodollar created artificial demand for the dollar. So I think Trump doesn't really mind. And I don't think he's being aggressive because China and other countries are trading oil in yuan. So it seems a bit counterintuitive, but it makes sense. Book 84, the strong dollar is messing up with my UK investments. I don't know where you are, Book 84, what currency you're thinking. So I assume you hold dollars, you're in the US, and you invested in some English, British companies, and they haven't done well because the pound's gone down, I guess. Well, that's always the risk of investing in other currencies. Danny Djokovic, Maneko, do you think most of the people living in Turkey that aren't Turkish, of Turkish origin, will stay when times get tough, or will they be leaving Turkey for good? I couldn't tell you. I don't really know much about Turkey, the domestic situation there. I'm looking more of the geopolitical and the currency, but I wouldn't be able to answer that question. The U.S. should pump up its oil production. I think the U.S. is. I think they're also going to start pumping up their natural gas production. I don't know if you guys saw, I made a video the other day and I talked about how Goldman Sachs is starting to get involved in liquefied natural gas. I think what Trump is doing is like destroying the EU's market. The EU depends massively on Russian gas and gas coming from the Middle East. And Trump is going to wreck that supply, and the Europeans are going to be forced to buy LNG from the US, and it's going to be more expensive. Yeah, Jim Butler, Trump is playing his role just as assigned. Yeah, I think Trump has been brought in to basically revamp the whole monetary system, to revamp the petrodollar, to nail the coffin in the petrodollar system. That's what he's doing. That's why it seems so confusing. But so not everything that we see in the front pages or is what is really going on. I would argue that Trump might even be dealing very in a friendly fashion with people we think he's not, like the Chinese, the Iranians, the Turkish. All the public stories we hear of trade wars could be a cover, and the real people he's going against are people like the EU and the UK. I even saw that he proposed to the UK this weekend for the UK to back the US against Iran and the sanctions, not to follow the EU. So I think Trump is very anti-EU, and he's using Iran and Russia to stifle the EU, to dismantle NATO as well. So it's all very uncertain. I'm not really 100% what's going on, but something's happening. It's going to change. Like Jacob Rothschild, and I won't call him Lord because a lot of people think I'm like giving him importance, but only reason I'm using the word Lord Rothschild is because that's his title here in the UK. But I think he was right. The economic order, the new world order that they try to get going, is under threat. Are they hedged? Are the globalists hedged for that? You bet they are. They'll win either way, I think. Kevin Murphy, hi Mario. My son's grandparents invest money in a savings account for the future for him. Do you think it would be better to invest in gold coins for the future? Definitely. I'm not sure where you are, Kevin, if you're in the US or UK, but longer term, gold coins or silver, it's you look at historically, fiat money loses its value. So yeah, I would recommend gold and silver, especially if your son is still quite young. Aaron Levy, Mario, let's see, Aaron, I missed your question. How does the petro yuan work? Is the oil traded in yuan, and at what point will we see more impact on the dollar? Well, yeah, it's traded in yuan at the International Energy Exchange in Shanghai, and yeah, it started trading in March 26th this year. Volume is picking up already. The first delivery month is going to be September. I've seen that the open interest is switching over, I think, to March now, next year. As I've said before in videos before, it's going to take time, but it will definitely make the petrodollar less important. And I think from November it's going to be even more important, because a lot of the sanctions not to buy oil from Iran kick in. So Europe will be in trouble if they do buy oil from there. Dane Robinson, hey Mary, if the financial system gets into trouble and gold goes up, do you think housing prices will come down to the point where 20 ounces could buy a house? Yeah, I guess it could. It could. Yeah, depends also on the country. Maybe a little more. It depends the average house price. I think in the UK, I think if you 50 ounces, yeah. In the US, maybe would be the same. Yeah, Billy's here today. Iran would be a great place if we could remove the CIA operatives. We're trying to do just that. Yeah, I don't have a problem with Iran. I think they haven't invaded another country in hundreds of years, if not 1,000 years or something. Yeah, and I've known Iranian people when I was younger. You know, they're just normal, just like us, no different. Will Turkey go the way of Venezuela? No, I don't think so. I think Turkey will get a lot more support from other countries like China and Russia. So I think Turkey will be okay. So let's start. I'm going to pick up a book here. It's one I haven't spoken about, and it's a interesting one. It's this one here. Dispatches. Can you see it? I don't know if you can see it. It says Dispatches from a Dying Country, Reflections on Modern England by Sean Gabb, G-A-B-B. Sean Gabb. So what's it say here about Sean Gabb? Well, he used to be part of the Libertarian Party of the UK. I even went to listen to this guy once. And yeah, this book is from 2001. And I think I went to listen to him years ago, over 10 years ago. And everything he says about how Britain is becoming more authoritarian is happening. So I'll read a little bit here. Dispatches from a Dying Country, Reflections on Modern England by Sean Gabb. So Dispatches from a Dying Country is an acerbic account of the gradual deconstruction of the essentially liberal traditions of England, a country that the author argues and documents is moving ever closer to a police state. England is becoming a nation of serfs under surveillance, harried for their own alleged good by governments and special interests that make us of assorted moral panics to establish their hegemony. The alleged menace of religious cults, of drugs, drunk drivers, demonic gun owners, pedophiles, pornographers, and the specter of racism are just parts of the plague of mythological and socially constructed pseudo-menaces that are used to engineer the legitimation of our rulers. So really interesting here, a dispatch from a dying country. I recommend this book, especially for people in the UK, basically Sean Gap saying that all these problems that they come up with is just to divide and conquer us and to keep us under the thumb of the establishment. And I think when he says the liberal tradition of England, he means the tradition of freedom. It's a liberal in the sense of the 19th century. It's not like the American sense of liberal being leftist. It's of being a free country with small government. I recommend this book. Thoughts on Bitcoin? Yeah, as I said earlier in the video, someone asked about cryptocurrencies. Right now, if you are into cryptos and you're getting hurt a bit, I think it's time to batten down the hatches, as they say, and weather the storm. You need to do that. It's not the time to sell. I think if you understand what the cryptocurrency and blockchain technology entails, you would hold on to your cryptocurrencies. I'm not going to advise you which ones in particular to have. There's a really long name there. As hello starts Tetro. Kurt Steigerwald. Mario, in your opinion, how can the U.S. fix the unfunded pension systems? They can't. The U.S. can't. I'm sorry. It's just money that they don't have. The only way to fix it is to admit that it's bankrupt and tell the people so they can prepare for their how can I say, their retirement, so they don't have the false impression that they will get. I think that's the only thing they can do, unfortunately. Or unless, we get alien invasion and they drop loads of gold on the US to pay for that. Jonathan, hey Mara, greetings from Trinidad. As a step of diversification, what do you think of investing into local organic farm of healthy food, water? Great. I wouldn't stop you from doing that, especially local. Yeah, Trinidad and Tobago, Port of Spain. Jonathan, is that where you are? I've been there once. Really nice place. I think I was there back in 1987. Enjoyed it quite a bit. So we've done one book here. It was Dispatches from a Dying Country. What's the next one? Oh, this is let's see. This is a really controversial book. This one here, The Nameless War by Captain A.H. Ramsey. And this is really good. Captain Ramsey, he was an MP in the UK back in the 30s and during the war, World War II. And he was put in jail because he questioned the entrance of England or the UK into World War II. And they put him in jail for that. He didn't do anything wrong. They didn't have any, they didn't give him a trial or anything. And he was in jail for 4 years, came out in 1944 and went back to Parliament. I think people need to read this book, The Nameless War. It shows you a lot about, it will make you think about what we're told about World War II and even World War I. Of course, if you go on Wikipedia, people will say that Captain Ramsey was an anti-Semite, but I don't think he was. If he had, it's weird because the people that come out with the truth, sometimes they put them in jail. So that's why I think, I'm not saying you have to accept what he says, but it's really, really interesting. So he talks about the Zionist influence in the UK and how they pushed the country into war, World War II. And I'm not talking about religion, just the Zionism and the banking cabal, I would say. uh, Poraki, your thoughts on the government watchdog implemented to keep an eye on banks in the UK, saying they do not have the power to sanction them. Well, the thing is, the banks and governments in the UK is a joke. So, watchdog, I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't trust any of them. So it's something that I ignore. Enoch Sosh, what do you think of Alan Greenspan saying recently that we are in the early stages of stagflation? I think he's right. I've even said that we are already in stagflation. If you look at my videos, you see search on YouTube, maneco64 stagflation. I already argue, especially here in the UK, we have stagflation. The only reason it doesn't look like it is because they manufacture the data. They tinker with the data, GDP and inflation, to make it look like we're not. And they also manipulate the employment data to make it look like there is no stagnation, but there is. So Alan Greenspan is right. He wouldn't have said that, though, if he was still chairman of the Federal Reserve. Labuk 84, I want to buy more gold, but I have so much money in the market making big returns. I don't want to lose out on that. Fine, it's your call. Super Vrek, 26 minutes too late. No, you're not too late, Super Vrek. I've only done a couple of books, and I'm here for a while still, so no problem. So the other book this is the third book, Super Vrek, so I've only done a couple. This book was recommended by Jim Sinclair of jsmindset.com, because Jim Sinclair's father was called Bertram Seligman, and that's a Jewish name. I don't know why Jim Sinclair changed his name to Sinclair instead of Seligman, but he recommended this book. It's called Our Crowd by Stephen Birmingham, The Great Jewish Families of New York. This is a must-read if you're going to understand the financial system, the central banking system. And it's an amazing book. It talks about how these families control everything, all the banking system in the States, and how they intermarried so much. Even the Rothschilds, who were supposed to not have gone to the States, even they married into the Seligmans, the Schiffs. So I'll just read here, Life. This is what Life magazine said from this book. So it's not anti-Semitic book or anything. This is about the great Jewish families of New York City. So Life magazine says, here are the Seligmans, transformed overnight from peddlers to financial advisors to presidents. Here's Jacob Schiff, not long out of the Frankfurt ghetto, contending with J. Pierpont Morgan himself. Here's Otto Kahn engaging Gatti, Casazza, and Toscanini to bring the Metropolitan Opera to the premier rank. Here are the Lehmans, rising from peddlers to cotton brokers, to bankers, to public servants. Happily, Stephen Birmingham has brought to his task all skills of a good novelist. His delight is poking around behind the massive facades and examining the jealousies, tensions, snobberies, courtships, social disciplines, griefs, and absurdities. So I highly recommend this book, Our Crowd, by Stephen Birmingham. It just talks about the whole this is if you want to see who's who in finance and how they actually intermarried so much, these people, and we don't hear much about them anymore, but I would bet they're still behind a lot of the power today. So highly recommend this. Jim Sinclair recommended this book. Um, don't throw on Shabos. Alex Jones is a Zionist gatekeeper. Do you agree? Well, I've followed Alex Jones for many, many years, early 2000s. And I have to say he's done a great service to open people's eyes to many questions. As far as the Israeli Zionist statement, I don't know. I mean, I saw a video where he says that the reason why the Jews are influential and in a lot of positions of power is because their IQ is higher, that it's not done by design. But that seems to contradict a lot of the stuff that he talks about that's done by design. So I don't know. Yeah, the thing is, yeah, I kind of agree with what you said about Alex Jones, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to listen to him anymore, because he's got a lot of good information and good things, to inform the public with. So that's how I feel about it. But I do agree he's been very, he used to portray himself more as a libertarian, not a Republican. He used to say the Democrats and Republicans, they were, part of the same group, same team, that he didn't want to be, he want to be libertarian, small government. But it seems to me that he's taking sides now. So that's Alex Jones there. Eric Olson, do you think we will see the richest man in Babylon principles in cryptos? With cryptos, I believe that it makes sense to save again, just as in gold and silver. It makes no sense to save in fiat. I agree, Eric. I think cryptos are have a future. They are a lot more volatile. It's like a roller coaster ride, but they will do well as well. That's why I do hold some cryptos, not as much as precious metals. Let's have a look here at another book. I've got loads here. Actually, this one is a little more different. It's a little bit more historical and not really too much about markets. It's called The Spirit of Venice by Paul Strathern. From Marco Polo to Casanova. And I think it's really interesting that people read about Venice. I think Venice was the precursor to the British Empire. Am I saying that the British Empire was a great thing? No, I'm not making a judgment. But Venice, I mean, really powerful city-state. I think they started out 800 or 900 AD, and it only fell in 1798 when Napoleon invaded Venice. So a lot of people think, oh, Venice is part of Italy, right? But I mean, Venice was an empire for a lot longer than Italy has been around, and they evolved from a little island on the Adriatic to, they were the major trading nation or city in the Mediterranean, and they influenced a lot of culture. The other thing that they did was really interesting is they built an arsenal to build their warships. And this was 1200, 1300, and they were the first people to use the assembly line to build their ships. So that's how interesting the Venetians are. So I highly recommend this book for people who like markets, economics, even though it's historical and it's about Venice. There's a lot to learn. So The Spirit of Venice, Paul Strathern, recommend this. A lot of people say that the name Venice comes from Phoenician, Phoenicia, Venice. They say that it could be they could be like the Phoenicians might have been ancestors of the Venetians. Who knows? I mean, the Phoenicians were great. They had a trading empire, in before, I think it was 300, 400 BC. So really interesting. No, my cheerleader. Yeah, smash the like button. Also, if you like to contribute to the channel, I have a super chat button if you like to donate to the channel. Venetian come from the Illyrian Empire. So let's see another one. Let's see another one about trading. The New Market Wizards. I read this a long time ago. Jack Schwager or Schwager. Conversations with America's top traders. So if there are people out there watching and who follow me and want to learn more about trading, I recommend this book. A really good book. I'll tell you who he talks to, some of the traders he talks to. Let's have a look. One of the traders he talks to, some of you might have heard, Stanley Druckenmiller, Richard Dryhouse, Victor Spirandio. Who else? Yeah, anyway, recommend that. The New Market Wizards. I think there's also the Market Wizards as well. Oh, I've got all these books here, and just another trading one. And this one is a classic. It's probably my favorite about trading. It's about Jesse Livermore. Jesse Livermore, World's Greatest Stock Trader by Richard Smitten. And the interesting thing about this book is because it talks about Jesse Livermore's life, how he lived, his family. It's not just about trading in the business. And it will make you think twice about trading because it's not easy. I think a lot of people nowadays just think, oh, I'm going to start trading, right? And especially if that's going to be like part-time, because the most important thing I got from this book is if you're going to trade, it's got to be a business. So yeah, Jesse Livermore, World's Greatest Stock Trader, Richard Smitten. All right, so we'll stop with the books a little bit for now, and I'll take some questions if you guys have. If you want to ask any questions, or I'll keep going with the books. We'll see. Charles Patterson says, I have a great book to recommend, The Banality of Evil, Hannah Arendt. Oh, I haven't heard that one. Yeah, Billy just moved around. He got up and turned around and switched space. Yeah, he does that. So the Sprinkler Ninja, do they allow jet skis in Venice? Because I would drive a jet ski if I lived there. I don't know. I've actually never been to Venice. I'd like to go to Venice, but I'm sure it should be all right to have a jet ski. Good morning, Aaron. Aaron, how are you doing? Bitcoin or gold? Both. Yeah, both. I've got some Bitcoin, but I've got more. I favor gold more. I think gold is safer. Bitcoin is more of more leveraged, I would say. It's more risky. I think you can make a lot more, but you can lose quite a bit more with cryptos. I'm just looking at some books here. Oh yeah, the other one. This is more a little like the book about Venice. It's not really too much about economics or markets, and it's called the Island at the Center of the World. This one here. It's by Russell Shorto. It's like short with an O, and it's basically about New York. but before it became New York. It's when the Dutch went there. It's about the Dutch creation of New Amsterdam or New Holland. It's really interesting. It says here the epic story of Dutch Manhattan and the forgotten colony that shaped America. I think is really interesting. What I got from this book that you don't get, for example, in school when they teach you, well, the Dutch settled New York and then the British came, is that it wasn't like these places weren't settled to create like a new country, or they went there for business, to trade. And that's what's really interesting. That's all the colonies were. They were just like the Europeans going afar to try to get new trade routes and to do business and make money. That's all it was. Really good book, The Island at the Center of the World, Russell Shorto. Yeah, it's what's it say here? A masterpiece of storytelling and first-rate intellectual history, as readable as a finely written novel, social history in the Barbara Tuchman tradition. So yeah, this is one of the first books about Dutch New York or New Amsterdam. Really, really great. I recommend it. Tanner Gray. Will Tiger win again? Well, I watched yesterday. He played really well in the first 9. Played well in the second 9. Didn't make too many putts, but I think he will win again. Sure, and I think he will definitely win again. A regular tour event, a major tournament. We'll see. He's got a chance today. I have to say, he's not my favorite golfer ever, Tiger. I like Tom Watson, who's older now, but Tiger is a special player. Notwithstanding what happened to him personally, you know, that's something else. Aaron Schnacky, can you check platinum? Let's have a look here. I'm going to have a look at the chart. Give me a minute. Yeah, looking at the chart here, platinum looks like I would say it's bottomed around 800, but we need to break through 850. So yeah, that's how I see platinum. I hope that helps. I know that doesn't, you know, I don't really follow it too much. Let's see. Mr. B, your thought on missold mortgage claims? I haven't really followed that. I mean, there's a lot of missold stuff in the UK, but I haven't seen that judicial review. Jake Jones, let's see a T-shirt with an image of Erdogan and the speech bubble coming from his mouth saying Maneco was right to buy gold, something like that. Yeah. MRJ78. Hi, Mario from Dublin. Do you think the Turkish crisis is down to the US putting on the squeeze because they want to move away from the dollar? I don't know. I think it's more of trying to. There's a lot. It's difficult. It's a difficult thing. I think the Turks are going to be okay. The people who are not going to be fine are the Europeans. I think Trump is trying to kill Europe's supply of gas from the Middle East and from Russia. So there's some Muppet here on the live stream, Matty MRR. I'm gonna remove him because we don't need people like that. All right, he's gone. Bye-bye, Matty. Okay. Don Ply, hello from Romania. Hi, Don. So yeah, that's what I see. I mean, I think that's what's going on. I don't think. I think what's going on in Turkey, trade wars. There's a lot more to it than what we're told, and by that I mean that Trump might actually be working with the Turks to do this, but it looks like he's fighting with them. It's very confusing. Oh, you're welcome, Mr. B. Mr. B says thanks for the super info in your channel. Hi, Paul Harlick from Toronto. Nice to see you. Yeah, Billy. He's that's Billy Denply, Billy the Shih Tzu. He's a big part of the channel. Thanks, Pieces of Jade. I hope you're well as well. Gray Fox, how long before precious metals resurge? Well, there's some cycles analysts like Charles Nanner, who's been quite good in his calls. He thinks gold is he sees gold bottom this summer, and especially towards the end of the summer. He had a level in gold in US dollars as 1212 as a support, even though he said that we could go through that level, but timing wise, we're very near a bottom. So yeah, I hope we are near a bottom. So another book, let's see if we got another book. Oh yeah, this one here. Some of you might have seen this one, Tower of Basel. I think I've done this one before, by Adam Libor, Tower of Basel, the shadowy history of the secret bank that runs the world. So this is about the Bank for International Settlements. Bank for International Settlements basically is the banker for the central banks. And it's based in Basel, Switzerland, but it's basically a sovereign country. It doesn't have to follow the laws of Switzerland or anything. It was created by a treaty at the International Court in The Hague in 1930. And I would say these people run the world. BIS, the same people that are, this is the bank that does the dirty work for the central banks. Because the CIA, for example, CIA cannot spy on Americans domestically. That's against the law. So what they do is they have MI6 or GCHQ or Mossad foreign intelligence agencies spy on Americans for the CIA, right? So they can say, oh, we didn't spy on anyone, but someone else did for them. And that's what the BIS does. The BIS does all the intervention for the central banks on behalf of them, so that when Fed chairman or Bank of England governor or ECB president is asked by the press or by Congress or by Parliament, oh, have you ever done this and that? They'll deny it. They'll deny it, but because they're doing it for them, and no one can touch. No one can do anything to the BIS, not even Interpol. They're above the law. So I highly recommend this book, Tower of Basel, Adam Libor. So what do some people say about this? Likat Ahmed, who's author of Lords of Finance, this is what he says about this book. Adam Libor has written an absolutely fascinating history of the BIS, perhaps the most enigmatic financial institution in the world. The story he unveils of the many skeletons in the closet and its astounding ability to remake itself periodically only to add its mystique. Yeah, Edward Lucas, Tower of Basel is essential reading, meticulously researched and fluently written. It reveals a slice of the modern world's Untold history, a gripping tale of covert networks, secret deals, and unaccountable powerful individuals whose decisions shape our lives. This bank needs to go. It needs to be abolished by treaty again. We don't need the BIS. So highly recommend this. Oz Hunter, how do I secure silver if I live in an apartment? I don't know, Oz Hunter. You need to figure that out for yourself. You need to find a good place to hide it. I don't know, maybe someone that you trust that lives in a house, or but you just need to be careful. KVJ, what timing methods does Charles Nenner use to work out the cycles? I don't know, because he's not. He doesn't tell people that because it's his trade secret. But he has made some good forecasts in the past about tops and bottoms. Yeah, Pat, that's what he's saying. He said he talked about the 12-12 level, but he also said that it could go down. But he's always said that end of the summer, towards the end of the summer. So the summer here in the northern hemisphere ends around September 21st. So we're getting there towards the end of the summer. OG, what's your take on what will happen Monday with Turkey? More down? Probably. And Turkey could be a big problem for the European banks. So the euro, I did in my video yesterday. If you looked at my video, I looked at the euro chart versus the dollar. It looks really bad, and it could. So we could have a lot of. How can I say? Things could start getting interesting. They got interesting towards the end of last week. Mr. B, do you see the pound down more this week? Longer term, I see the pound a lot lower this week. Maybe we could even rebound a little bit. I haven't seen if we have any important data in the UK, but yeah, it doesn't look good at the moment. I think there will be, if it rebounds, I think it could go back up to 130.50, but I wouldn't go long. But yeah, it has sold off quite a bit recently, and things never go down in a straight line. So that's all I can say, really. Fibonacci retracement is basically, H. Zilla is asking what Fibonacci retracement is. Well, the Fibonacci sequence, the golden mean is derived from that, which is 61.8%. So what people do in markets, let's say they take a bottom, let's say a year ago, and the top, let's say a month ago, they take that and they measure the retracement of that move, the 61.8 retracement, that move. The other important retracement is 38.2, which is the mirror of 61.8. And some people also look at the 50% retracements. Yogev Gaming King, Israel, love you. Oh, thanks, Yogev. Nice to see you here. Angelo Polito, I like maneco64. Thank you. Mr. B, do you believe rumor of IMF bailing out Turkey? No, I don't. I don't think. Why would Turkey want the U.S. to help them? Because basically the IMF is run by the U.S. It's the IMF is the foreign arm of the U.S. Treasury, and why is that? Well, because only the U.S. has a veto in the IMF. Because they've got the most shares in the IMF. They've got a controlling stake. So I don't think they would. Pad. It blew my mind when I found out trading firms use Masonic astrology and other mystery. Yeah, I mean, I learned about Fibonacci retracement and things like that in the markets, technical analysis. If that's Masonic, so be it. But a lot of these levels and retracements work in the market. So let's get another book here, another one. Oh yeah, this is the other one this is one of the guys. He made a comment on that book, The Tower of Basel. It was, what's his name? Liaquat Ahmed, The Lords of Finance. This is really good. This will show you as well how the central bankers work. So 1929, the Great Depression and the bankers who broke the world. So what else does it say here? This has happened before. The current economic crisis has only one parallel, and I guess they're talking about 2008. The Wall Street crash of 1929 and subsequent Great Depression of 1930s, which crippled the future of an entire generation and set the stage for the horrors of the Second World War. Yet this financial meltdown could have been avoided had it not been for the decisions taken by a small number of central bankers. So it just goes to show that things never change. So they've got here a Schart, who was Hitler's banker. He was the head of the German central bank. They've got the head of the Bank of France guy. They've got Montague Norman, governor of the Bank of England, and they've got the this one is the New York Fed guy, Benjamin Strong, and that's the French guy. So never changes. These guys are still around. Not them particularly, but you know their successors, and they're working together. And I think they're gonna make mistakes again. Lords of Finance, interesting as well. Let's see. Blue Rose, good question. maneco64, why is insider trading bad? Well, insider trading never used to be illegal, but it has been made illegal. I personally don't think there's anything wrong with it. If you are part of a industry, if you work for a big company, if you have connections and stuff, it's difficult to stop insider information. I think it's people who, don't benefit. Yeah, I think it's just a way of controlling the market. I don't really think maybe might not be too ethical, but it's not a crime, insider trading, in my opinion, even though nowadays it is. That's what I think about it. Richard Langelotti, my wife loves the Billy pillow. Oh, you're welcome. Did you get one, Richard? Stab Woodcutter, good book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, John Perkins. I have that one as well. Yeah, I recommend that. Good book. Pat, bankers at the top make no mistakes. It's just that we misread their goals. Yeah, I think, yeah, you're right. And they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. The thing is, the mainstream media and academia, they have to portray them as making mistakes, because if they would tell us that they're doing what they really want, people would get very angry. They have to pretend they've made mistakes. I agree. Finance and economics, my favorite is still The Creature from Jekyll Island, even though it was written many years ago. Oh yeah, no, it's a great book. I have that on my shelf as well. I haven't got all my books here. I recommend that. I also recommend the books by, because I think G. Edward Griffin got a lot of his information from Eustace Mullins, The Secrets of the Federal Reserve. Eustace Mullins is really the pioneer into looking at this Federal Reserve. So I like The Secret from Jekyll Island, but I give Eustace Mullins a lot of credit. That's another one that I recommend. So just take some more questions. 2 or 3 more questions, and then I'll call it a day. We've done this for an hour now, so I'll just wait a little more. Or let's have a look at another book. Susan Chappell, I have very little in savings, around $5,000. What percentage should I have in precious metals? Of course, I need some emergency in a bank. Why not just take like $1,500, for example, and buy some gold and silver, and leave the rest in the bank? It depends how much you think you need for an emergency. Maybe 20%, that would be $1,000. That would be a good way to look at it, 20%. Oh, you're welcome, Susan. So what else? Let's have a look. Oh yeah, the other one, it's one that's, hey Mario, any books you don't recommend? Well, it's difficult to say that, isn't it? I guess none of the Keynesian economics books. There's a French guy who's become really popular, Thomas Piketty, I think. He's a real socialist. I think that's a waste of time to read his books. So don't read Keynesian economics. Don't read Milton Friedman. Yeah, don't read Paul Krugman. I agree, Kathleen Smith. What else? Don't read the FT. Don't read the Wall Street Journal. And if you're going to read them for like just information, but not their ideas, their editorials. Jacare Nalagoa, thank you for your super chat donation. Love the show, especially during my morning bike rides. Thanks. Jim Rickards, I like the Jim Rickards books. I have some Jim Rickards book. I haven't brought out all my books here. I've just took some of them. One here that I like, and it's difficult to get because it's limited edition, but you might be able to find it. A Pocket Book of Gold, a survival manual for monetary mayhem by Jim Sinclair and Peter Carlin. This is it's a pocket book of gold. This will it's kind of like a little manual of how to invest in gold. It talks about what gold really is. So if you're not really too much into gold yet, I will highly recommend that Pocket Book of Gold. I'll give you an example of what they talk about. Let's have a look. Chapter 1. So I'll stay a little longer. Chapter 1. Why own gold? Well, it says gold is insurance. Gold allows you to be your own central bank. So that's interesting. Gold bypasses government. That's right, because if you hold money in the bank, banks and governments are always related, and governments debase the currency that you keep in the bank. They can't do that to gold. Gold does not expose you to counterparty risk. So that means you can hold it in your hand. You don't depend on someone to hold it for you. Yeah, the other thing that gold is, look at Turkey, look at Russia. They wouldn't be able to confront the United States if they didn't have any gold. And that's why they've been buying a lot of gold, physical gold. The same thing for China. So gold gives you, how can I say, freedom and the ability to stand up for yourself. So that's why, yeah, the price is important to some extent, but it's more the fact of having it that it's important. So a pocketbook of gold. Yeah, Turkey does have a lot of gold, says Jeff Flogue. Bitcoin does allow you to be your own bank. That's right. But you can't really hold it. But I would say gold is better than Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is better than the fiat, in my opinion, as well. Limitless one, who has the gold makes the rules. That's right. Don't read anything by Houghton Mifflin. I won't. Mifflin, sorry, yeah, I haven't heard of this person, so I won't though. I'll keep that in mind. Banking on money. What do you feel about a one world currency? It's difficult. It's tricky because currency is what you actually use to transact, right? But I wouldn't mind having a one world money, a money of the free markets, and that would probably be gold and silver, cryptocurrencies. Currency is just what governments use within their political borders, like the paper, the currency. You know, I promise to pay you. But a one world currency, I don't know if we're going to get a one world currency. I think we're going to have, what we're going to have is gold and silver coming back into the fore, and they're going to be world money. And each country's currencies are going to be dependent on that. And that's how I see the world current. It's more world money. I don't see a world currency per se. So you got to differentiate currency from money. Currency is different. It's not necessarily money. Currency is like a piece of paper or yeah. Yeah, gold is, Jeff says, gold is one world money. Yeah, it's accepted anywhere in the world. You go with a gold coin anywhere in the world, people will exchange it for their local currency. And I don't think that's a bad thing. So what I'm against is having a one world fiat currency controlled by the central bankers. Yeah, gold is a de facto store of wealth. HVEM, hey Maneco, I watch you every day. Great stuff. Oh, thanks. Thanks for the feedback. Strata Cat 2000. Soon the new Ottoman Empire will be using gold. Islam will be rich. Yeah, the gold dinar. Maybe, yeah. There's a lot of countries that are, I think Gaddafi in Libya wanted to have a gold dinar to trade with the sub-Saharan Africa, but look what happened to him. But I think it will be difficult to stop Russia, China using gold. Venezuela has the best performing stock market in the world. Well, the thing is getting the money out of there, Lily. And if you have to sell your Venezuelan holdings, you're going to get their local currency. And how do you? There's probably capital controls. Billy McFarland, one world currency would be globalism. Not good. Well, again, Billy McFarland, it depends what you mean by one world currency. One world money is not a bad thing because gold and silver are recognized as money worldwide. But money should flow freely around the world. But what I'm against is a one world fiat currency controlled by a central bank. I think it would be great if we had no central banks whatsoever, and gold and the market decided what money would be, and it would be a store of value in every country. Or some countries might not want to use gold; they will use silver or use Bitcoin. So yeah, I am against the world, one world fiat currency. Yeah, Bitcoin, but Bitcoin still quite, gold and silver have a much longer track record than Bitcoin, thousands of years. Bitcoin, 10 years. Susan Chappell, if anyone follows astrology, we're about to go through a life-changing events in the next couple of years. I don't really follow it, Susan, but yeah, who knows? What's happening exactly, Susan? Anything any like links we could look into, like any videos? That would be interesting. I keep an open mind. H-Cone, Venezuela has a lot of gold. What did they do to help them? Well, Venezuela took a lot of their gold, well, took all their physical gold out of the Bank of England in 2011. They shipped it to Caracas, but from what I heard, they leased it all out, and all that gold is gone because they leased it to Goldman Sachs. Big mistake. Oh, Kathleen Smith says, bye, Mario. Hope Ricky Fowler wins today. Yeah, Ricky's a good player. He needs to win a major. Oh, you think the money system will change a lot, yeah, Susan, because of the astrology? Okay, I get you. Jesse James, JP Morgan stated gold is money, everything else is credit. So which category does Bitcoin fit? It fits in as money, I would say. It's not credit because Bitcoin was not issued as debt. It was earned, I guess, by miners. So it is money, yeah. But and what would JP Morgan, this was about 100 years ago, he made that statement. It was a question by someone in Congress, asked him what gold was, and he said gold is money, that's all, and everything else is credit. I would say yeah, Bitcoin is a competing money to gold. All right. Mac, who owns the most gold in the world? Well, out of the sovereign nations, by reserves, it's the US, supposedly 8,000 tons, 8,300 or something. But who knows? It could be there could be a very rich, maybe the Rothschilds own the most gold, or maybe some black nobility family. I don't know. That's the thing about gold. It's very secretive. People, it's not very public. It's private. Daryl Lowry, your thoughts on the ECB coming to Turkey's rescue? Well, I think they're coming more to the rescue of the UK, the European banks. So I don't think they're going to rescue Turkey. They're going to rescue maybe the European financial system, or try to rescue it. All right, so I'm going to call it a day now. Been here for over an hour and a quarter. It was great to see everyone participating in this Bookstream Q&A. So yeah, so just one more question here. Stratacat 2000, if you believe in the Bible, it says they will throw their silver into the streets and their gold will seem unclean. Yeah, I've heard of that. But anyway, this is it. So I'll probably, yeah, I'll be making a video tomorrow. I'm not sure when the next live stream will be. So have a great end to, great rest of the weekend. If you still have, if you're in Asia, I guess it's almost finished. In the US, you still have half your weekend. And yeah, thanks for the participation. And I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye.